All right, welcome to this edition of the Whatever Podcast, and I got another special guest with me. He goes by several aliases. You could call him Aceman Analysis, DJ Ace, Aceman, and this is what I would have to say about him when it comes to his YouTube channel, which I'll have in the description. It's like a combination of genius, like annotation videos, with a mix of Blackie Speaks. That's what I have to say about him. And give you a little background on how we know each other. So a couple of years ago, we met through internship. I have to say, this is probably one of the only positive experiences I've had with group work. All right, so welcome, DJ Ace.
Hey, the whatever kid. I love the description you made. I really highly love both Blackie Speaks and Genius. So, that really was such a great, that really made me happy that you see my content in that way. And also thank you so much for having me on because yeah, we did meet through an internship out of all places. So it was cool when we first started talking, but man, I'm so happy that I can be on the whatever podcast.
All right, so first thing we're gonna be talking about is I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about or repeat stuff I'm gonna be saying about it because I'm having another edition where it's just fully dedicated to this whole Kwame Brown situation with my and I talk about like a whole bunch of stuff with my dad on that about Kwame Brown. This is I'm gonna be saying stuff about it, but I want to get Ace Man's opinion on the whole matter. So how much do you know about the the situation or whatever you want to call it, what's been going on with Kwame Brown uh, the last week or so?
I've seen stories on Twitter. I've seen stuff on like all different social media. I've really focused a lot of it. I've got a lot of it through Charlemagne the God in the Breakfast Club. So a lot of it has been um like understood through the lens of like the kind of beef, if you want to say, like between Charlemagne and Kwame. But I didn't really know Kwame too well. I wasn't too familiar because when he was playing in the NBA, it was kind of a little bit before my time. It was like 2001 to 2012 or 13 or something. So it
Yeah.
was like kind of right before when I started watching the NBA. So I'm not too familiar with him as a player, but I do know his legacy. Like a lot of people believe he's a bust. So I think that in that way, um, like I just kind of see him in that way, but I don't really know. I know like what has been going on in terms of him kind of getting angry with his people who kind of criticize him. And I think that it is kind of sad in a way that it did kind of stem with Charlemagne. It kind of went a little personal, but um, that's all I know is kind of more with the Charlemagne and just in general, like with what sport like gossip news have been kind of putting in the headline. So I know some things, but I don't know like the full, like everything that's going on with everyone.
Yeah. For me, like I'm gonna talk about this. I didn't mention it on this upcoming podcast I'm gonna be doing, just like talking about this whole Kwame Brown situation and like the deeper things behind all that. But my memories of Kwame Brown, like I've been a fan of basketball since about late 2007, and my really only recollections of Kwame Brown really have nothing to do with real life. It's more like NBA Live or 2K. And actually, Kwame Brown, Kwame Brown was in the last 2K he was in, the NBA 2K14. He was my teammate on my career.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what? I got Kwame a championship in that. So
Hey.
maybe maybe people will stop call would stop calling him a bona fide scrub like Stephen A. Smith did years ago if he won a championship. Yeah, yeah, but I'm gonna explain to Ace about the situation. So it it started. I'm not gonna go like so deep into. I'm just gonna give like a brief synopsis of it. It started when the thing that really started it all was Matt Barnes. he's really had something to say about anybody that's just been responded to him. But it really started with you. Do you know the podcast All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson?
I know some of it. Yep, I've heard of it.
They interview NBA players. They interviewed the sideline reporter Rachel Nichols. They interviewed the Lakers' own Jeannie Buss, and that's how it started. They were interviewing Jeannie Buss,
Mm-hmm.
and she was talking about the Paul Gasol trade, which helped the Lakers eventually get 2 more titles. Kobe's last 2 titles with the Lakers, and Kwame Brown was a part of the deal. And then I'm laughing because of something Kwame Brown said about that. Uh, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson were saying, "Oh, it was only one person." They're making the joke that like Kwame Brown is irrelevant. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they were joking about because the trade was Paul Gasol. It was essentially Paul Gasol for his brother Marc Gasol. It was a draft pick that eventually became Marc Gasol for the Grizzlies, and then Kwame Brown, and then they were joking, "Oh, it's just one player." and and Kwame Brown was saying, "Oh, you sound like a bunch of schoolgirls talking about." And then here's the thing about this. I you're gonna hear when I release the podcast about me talking about going deeper into Kwame Brown's situation, but I'm on Kwame's side for this because people have been talking smack about this guy for 20 years when he was
Mm-hmm.
a high schooler, 18 years old. Do you do you realize how unbelievable that is for people to be talking smack about someone that hasn't mentally fully developed? Because you fully mentally develop when you're 25 years old, and then people were talking smack about him for all of his career. People saying he's a bona fide scrub like Stephen A. Smith
Hmm.
and Kwame Brown. He said he, the roast he comes up with, it just cracks me up. He was roasting Stephen A. Smith.
Oh
He was
my gosh.
Charlemagne the God. Really, anybody that's had something to say about him, whether it's recent because he's. This is what I feel Kwame is. He's like a troll. He's like a 6'11" troll because that that's what he's doing right now. He's getting a reaction out of all of these people. I don't think Kwame Brown's really angry at it. He's using this as an opportunity. This is what every brilliant business person does or
Hmm.
marketer does. They nailed what's the saying? They strike the iron while it's hot.
Yep. Yep.
And that's what Kwame Brown's been doing. And then the Charlemagne situation, he was talking about how he he has his family has like criminal history or whatever, and
Hmm.
then Kwame was like, some of that's a lie.
Hmm.
He was saying one of the brothers that Charlemagne claimed was in jail. He was saying he's working right now as we speak.
Oh my gosh. That is, yeah, I think that one, Charlemagne did like apologize. I did hear that today and how like it kind of damaged the family's reputation. And I know like how they do live in, I think they live in the same, they're from the same county in South Carolina, and how like
Yeah,
that damaged like kind of the reputation between the two families, like Charlemagne's and like Kwame's, because I guess they like know each other. So I think with that, I know like I only am familiar with that part of the story and how like Charlemagne really kind of made an idiot of himself and how he actually gave himself Donkey of the Day for the 24th for Monday. So yeah, that was really bad.
yeah. That's the issue. Like people will act like they know what they're talking about, but then it it backfires on them, like it did with Charlemagne. But like Kwame's response, he was bringing up this case where allegedly he 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 was with a 15-year-old girl. This was like many years ago. He brought that up,
Mm.
and then uh there was this was this is actually he was recorded saying this. He was how he essentially pulled a Bill Cosby.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there's that, and then allegedly, I swear to you, this video of the Breakfast Club got deleted, and it was about how supposedly uh his wife
Mm-hmm.
when their like their first time,
Uh-huh.
it was like a Cosby situation again.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
she couldn't
Mm.
consent really. So
It's-
what do you have to say about like this about this dirt on Charlemagne?
This is pretty serious. Yeah, this could definitely hurt Charlemagne. I think the thing with just anyone in the public eye is that like once this information comes out, like people will really like quote unquote cancel them, you know? Because I think like today we live in like, they put the cancel culture, they try to politicize it, but it's also like with pop culture too. And you see like with the whole Me Too movement, how that really
Yeah.
like hurt careers because of what people did, like what disgusting things they did and how it backfired. But I think with Charlemagne, I don't know if these are true or not, but if they are like these could hurt him.
Yeah, so actually with like this 2001 case with this 15-year-older, I believe there's kind of conflicting stories on what happened. Like the kid, like the rape kit,
Mm-hmm.
like didn't have his DNA or whatever. Like people, there's like conflicting stories about it, but I think the thing that is true is that like he took he took a plea deal or something like that to
Hmm.
a lesser charge. So it's like delinquency of a minor or something like that.
Hmm.
So I kind of view it as kind of like a OJ situation where he's he's declared not guilty of the murder, but like in when they were doing a civil case of it, he was found liable of the deaths of Nicole and Ron.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's like the whole thing with the justice system too. It's like how complex it is and then how you can still like plead with it and you can kind of quote unquote get away with something lesser, but you still serve somewhat of a sentence.
Yeah, I think it's small. Now, like to Kwame Brown, back more on Kwame Brown. Now, I think it's smart on what he did, like talking smack when you're retired from the league because the, people like Stephen A. Smith, they would have been vultures to that. Stephen A. Smith would have been if he was talking the way he has been the last week when he was in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen A. Smith would have been like, he not also is he a bona fide scrub, but he is an awful teammate and is terrible for the locker room.
Oh
He
my
would be
gosh.
saying that.
Oh, he would have been Stephen A. The one thing that I really love about Stephen A. I don't know if you really like Stephen A. I think he says it like it is. Even if you don't want to hear the ugly truth, Stephen A. will roast you. Like he'll roast any
Yeah,
sport that he knows. There are sports that he's just kind of a personality, like with boxing or like with MMA. He doesn't really know a whole lot. Like if you watch like UFC and like Joe Rogan next to Stephen A, it is awful. But with most sports, I tune into ESPN occasionally just to watch Stephen A, what he says, because I think he has a brilliant mind in terms of sports. And I think with this, he would say the ugly truth about Kwame. I think he really would.
what do you think about this? Because I agree with Kwame Brown when he says this. He's saying, "How can I be a bust? How can I be considered a bust?" Yes, yes, he did not live up to expectations in the NBA, but he was saying, "How can I be a bust if I played 12 years in the NBA and bought my mom a house at 18?"
Hey, you know what? That's where the definition of success is disputed. I kind of agree with them. I'm like, you know what? How can you be a bust? A bust is like someone who was in the NBA for like 2, 3 years, falls out because they either have too many injuries or they completely go down, get demoted to G League, and then they just fall out. And since
Yeah,
Kwame was in the league for like 12 years, you said, yeah,
yeah,
since he was in the league for over a decade, like he played a pretty decent career for till he's like 31, 32. And that's pretty decent. A lot of the goats, like people are big contenders, play 35, 36, 37. But that's because they can do it. And some players can't even make it to 25 years old. They just retire. And like I give him a lot of credit that he was able to buy his mother a house. He was able to earn enough money off of his rookie contract. He went first round, number one. um that's a pretty good thing on his resume. He was actually like scoring, at least I don't know how many points he was scoring his first couple of years. It wasn't like was single digits, right? But still, like he was actually like doing something with the team, even though he wasn't living up to like the greatest expectations. But yeah, again, even though the expectations weren't as high and he was getting criticized, he still had a spot on the team. It wasn't like he just got kicked off and everyone pushed him over. He was still pretty relevant. So I give him that.
Yeah, that's why or not Stephen A. That's why Kwame Brown criticized Stephen A. for saying stuff like bona fide scrub. How can you be a bona fide scrub if, even though Kwame Brown says that Michael Jordan, who was the GM that drafted him to Washington for the first pick, he was saying that Michael Jordan wanted to trade that first pick for a more established star player.
Wow.
So that right there, that says something in itself, that you wanted to trade him, essentially trade Kwame Brown for an established star player. And how could he be a bona fide scrub if he's number one? If you want to say that he didn't live up to expectations, yeah, fair enough. But you can't just be a straight up bum and get drafted. No, be the pick.
I see that too. Yeah. Like how that's just the whole question. It's like how do you define a scrub? It's like a scrub. I mean, now I'm going to talk about the TLC song, but
Yeah,
no, a scrub is someone who, just bounces out of the league after 3, 4 years, G League, and then falls off. With Brown, it was totally different. And I think that for me, that wasn't, just for me, it wasn't, I think that he is not a scrub. I think when you have to
yeah,
say scrub, it has to be something that is like you have to meet all the criteria, and he did not.
yeah, exactly. And it makes me think of how flawed when people use the word bust. I feel it's very selective when people use the word bust at certain players, because someone such as Michael Kidd Gilchrist, who was the second pick in the 2012 NBA draft, he hasn't became a star. He's had spots on the team. He hasn't been playing this year, but I don't really hear I don't really hear people say that he's a bust, or at least I don't hear people say he's a bust. I don't go out of my way to hear that. It's
Mhm.
I could just turn it on to ESPN and then they'll be talking about, oh, he's a bust. But with someone such as Michael Kidd Gilchrist, no one really says that he's a bust. But then, like, also Greg Oden, first pick in the 2007 draft, people say he's a bust. But he had a whole bunch of injuries. I don't know if he would have been like this legendary player, but I think he could have had potential to make an all-star appearance here and there if he stayed healthy. But also, the an analyst for ESPN, Jay Williams, he was the second pick,
Mhm.
and then he had a motorcycle injury, and then he never played again. But no one says he's a bust. So it's very yeah, I know it's like it's out of his control, but you could say the same for Greg Oden. Yeah, you could do conditioning to not be as injury prone, but those are two things out of their control. But people are saying Greg Oden's the bust. Well, no one really says anything about Jay Williams.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that this is a little off topic because we're not talking about players. Do you think D Rose is a bust?
No, because I feel when you're the first pick,
Mm-hmm.
the minimum he did the minimum
Okay.
in order to not be considered a bust. But I wanna that's the thing. Kwame really has really made me consider about not using that word because if you make it to the NBA, you're doing something good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like everybody could do it because how many how many classmates you had back in the day say, "Oh, I want to be an NBA player."
Hundreds.
Exactly. And I was saying the same thing when I was younger. Oh, I want to be an NBA player. But the reality is it's probably not going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you getting drafted to NBA, I don't I don't think you could be considered a bust if you make it to the NBA. Yeah, you could say careers are underwhelming, but I don't know about bust.
Hmm.
It's just very selective. I feel when people use the word bust, they use it for certain people. Like if there's this guy who was the first pick and he's just like this arrogant jerk, they're probably like, oh yeah, he's a bust. But
Mm-hmm.
but if this guy that's like that was the second pick, but he's like this real humble dude, they might shy away. I feel they would shy away from calling him a bust. What do you have to say about what criteria there needs to be when considering, or if you were to use the word bust, I would shy away from it. But if you were to use the word bust, what would your criteria be for that?
I would say first we need to talk about duration. So how long this player has been in the league since they've been drafted. If they played 1 or 2 to 3 seasons and they just sucked and then no one wants to have them, they're kind of a bust in my opinion. Because like when you look at Kwame's situation, he played 12 years. I don't think that's a bust. So he wins in the duration. I think on top of that, also how healthy you are. I think sometimes some people just don't luck out and they're just not healthy from the beginning. They have so many injuries, it's costly. The team doesn't want them anymore. They would get released. They could be a bust because that's impacting their performance. I'd say also their attitude as well. They could be a bust in terms of if they just don't treat the whole team correctly, they're not ready for the NBA, and they kind of fail in that category as well. They're not performing well. They're barely putting up 5 points a game. They're really just not doing well. They've had several shots. They played several seasons and they just can't do it anymore. They try playing for another team and they just can't do it again. I'd say that's a bust. So I think all those things. So short duration, they get injured a lot. That could be one where they just can't play anymore because they're getting injured too much. They're not playing well. If they're a good player and they're getting injured a lot, well, that's just bad luck. But I think when
Yeah,
they're getting injured a lot and they just are not well, like not well trained, not anything like that, that could mean that they're just kind of not meant for the NBA or whatever sport. And then the third thing, morale. I think morale is something that is very big. If you don't have morale and you just are not really caring, you don't really hold yourself to a high of a standard, that's going to make you not succeed. And I think, therefore, that's a recipe for a bust.
yeah. So with Kwame and him just roasting all these people that have been criticizing him,
Mhm.
uh, are you on his side when you see these clips on social media about with him roasting these people and just trolling them?
You know, I don't I don't know if I can comment. I'm definitely not against the people. I mean, I'm not against him. I think I might be kind of more on his side because if you just look at both sides of the situation, I mean, the critics will always say, this guy, his legacy will always be remembered for, being someone who never played up to expectations. And that kind of is not false in a way. But in Kwame's, like his mindset, he's been being criticized since he was 18 years old. He's like 39 right now.
Yeah,
He's been out of the league for 7, 8 years. And I think that he's sick and tired of it. I think he wants to put the NBA behind him, but when everyone's still talking about him and his legacy is kind of being, in a way, being, you know, kind of dirted on, he needs to kind of defend himself. And I think that for him, I kind of believe that he has the right to defend himself, defend his legacy in a way. Because, I mean, then his personality in public is kind of looked at in a bad way, and no one really wants to be, laughed at, clowned at. I'm sure that an ex NBA player does not want to do that because that might just hurt his appearance for any future professional gigs that he wants to do in the future. So I think that with him, I think that he does have the right to say, you know what, um, I'm not taking this anymore, but I am going to be a little bit of a clown in this situation, and just make fun of these other people and see how they like it to be criticized. So you know what, it's kind of fair game in a way, kind of on
Yeah,
his side, kind of. I see both sides of the situation. I say, you know what, as long as you don't bring up family members into the thing and you're just talking about him and how he was quote unquote a bust in the NBA, then yeah, that's kind of fair because you know what, you're talking about something that he did as a player. You're talking about his performance and how he like held himself as an NBA player. You know what, that's fair because they're critics. That's kind of what they do. They're in the media for a reason. And Kwame also has the right to defend himself and also criticize them at their job. So that's kind of the stance I have.
yeah. And it's a two-way street. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the thing. People, now that Kwame's responding, some of them are like shaking in their boots, like, what? Kwame responded back to me after we've been roasting this dude for 20 years? What? And also, the thing that really like just the whole fight, I feel it was you could say it was unnecessary on Matt Barnes' part to make a joke. Say, oh, it was a two-player deal. No. It was just one player with Marcus Gasol. Bro, who's that? So I feel it was unnecessary to bring it up when guys been out of the league since 2008.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with that trade and just how Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson kind of just made fun of that. Just to bring up something that's kind of a throwback now. Like, yeah, it probably wasn't the best thing to do because it just kind of added fuel to the fire and kind of woke up Kwame. So
Yeah, don't. Someone someone said this in the comments. They said don't awake a sleeping giant.
that is such a fact.
Yeah, and then other people were saying this is what happens when the silent kid decides to speak up.
Oh my gosh, that's accurate as well.
You know what? I was thinking about this. I I know, like height wise, there's not really comparison between me and Kwame. If I were to stand next to him, it would be it would be no comparison. But I feel I could relate to him in some sense because people in school refer to me as like the quiet guy. But if you were to show them, especially like my rant videos of work where I'm swearing in them,
Oh my gosh.
I feel there would be that would have like the same like effect.
Yeah.
You hear you didn't really hear Kwame during his playing career. And then and same with me. You didn't really hear me say much during the time when you were my classmate or you were my teacher. And then you see my video where I'm just saying, where I'm just like cursing old people.
I kind of feel the same way too. Like I was kind of like that in high school as well, and just in school in general. I'm kind of more quiet, relaxed, but like sometimes I can get heated on my podcast show, or I can talk a lot on my radio show, or um on my YouTube channel as well. I feel like I'm the same way in a way. I'm like more talkative. If it's something that I like, I'll talk about it. So I think like it's the same way with Kwame. If you're passionate about something, with you, it's about the reaction video, well, all the things related to music and everything on your channel. Like with Kwame, it's about getting back at his critics, and for me, it's about like talking music, talking current events, whatever. You know, if it's something that we're passionate about, we'll really show our true passions. And I think people
Yeah.
like sometimes don't see that.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to mention before we move on to the next thing, talking about the EDP situation.
Ooh.
Oh, uh, Kwame Brown, Kwame Brown was teammates with Kobe for a couple of years,
Hmm.
and I've been thinking about this during the week. What if Kwame Brown was talking the way he did is now, but he was like that when he was playing the NBA and when he was playing with the Lakers and Kobe? What would that have been like? Kwame Brown talking like that and Kobe as teammates?
I don't think Kobe would have, just like with the character of Kobe, I think that before he passed away, I think people understood Kobe's character, but they didn't see how like elite it was. Maybe not elite, but maybe how like mighty it was in a way. I think with Kobe, since he was such a leader, I don't think he would have dealt with this. You know, I think that he would have said, "Look, Kwame, get your crap together. Stop talking about the critics. Forget about them. Adopt this Mamba mentality." Maybe if Kobe, I don't know, maybe he probably did, but maybe if he kind of like maybe took Kwame under his wing, maybe if Kwame was speaking about this when he was in the league, maybe he could have got this weight off his shoulder and played a little bit better. You never know if the critics really got into your head. Like that's why when they always talk about the rookies and how, you know, sometimes, oh, the media is going to really, you know, get in their head today. You know, it's like
Yeah,
that kind of scary thing. And how I think with him, I think it really got in his head, and he's been holding on for it to so long, and now he's almost 40 years old. He's been out of the league for 8 years almost. Like I think it's just been that thing. But I think with Kobe, since Kobe, like he was someone who kind of ignored the critics always. He was something that never really let anything, injury, insult, anything get in his way. He always wanted to strive for greatness, and he did not create any excuses. And I think with Kwame, unfortunately, the excuse was, you know, there was probably other excuses as well, but he really got these critics in his head, and unfortunately, that could have impacted him. But I think if Kobe really like, you know, cleansed his mind of all these thoughts, maybe it would have been more impactful.
Kwame Brown was acting the way he has been on, on his YouTube when he was teammates with Kobe. I feel like that might have been that might be a worse relationship than him and Shaq had during the end of their tenure together.
Hmm.
I feel that would be some good TV, like how like the NFL has the show Hard Knocks when it's at training camp in the preseason. If they were to do something like that, and Kwame was acting like he has been on his YouTube, and when he was Kobe's teammate, then you would just been you just would have been hearing guys just curse each other out. He would have been like, man, he would Kwame be like, Kobe, pass the ball, man. And then Kobe would be like, shut up, you bum.
I think that would have been something that people would have wished that was recorded.
Yeah, that would have been so funny if Kwame Brown was like that when his playing career was going on. But I think Kwame Brown stayed silent because I never really heard Kwame Brown talk until just this past week. And I was looking up interviews to see how he talks when he's like in a more professional setting. And it was odd. It was like seeing a rapper that swears a lot just be just be like Kanye was with the whole Jesus thing and not swearing on the album.
Huh. Wow.
It,
That is
it was it was kind of interesting seeing Kwame. It was like that meme where how you act at work and how you act when you're not at work. That's what it was kind of like.
Oh,
And that
that's a
was
good one.
Kwame at work. He was just he was being like real calm and well man. He was like, oh well, my expectations on the season. I think this team has potential. Well, he's on YouTube, man. Stephen A. Smith, look at that hairline though.
Yeah, that is something that I think would have been interesting to see. And that is a good accurate like description of like, yeah, you have all these rappers who really like urge they want to swear, they use this link up, but then they like all of a sudden like just change their persona and it's like really awkward, you know? That's
All
like
right.
that's how it would be. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So the next thing we're gonna be talking about is EDP. So
Oh.
if you don't know who he is, he's this guy that makes Charles Barkley look underweight. And
That's awful. He makes Shaq look underweight too.
yeah, but yeah, he's this guy that he's a YouTuber that got popular for his very very unfiltered rants about his favorite football team and the Philadelphia Eagles, and he did some other videos as well, some that were more on the weird side. So before we get our thoughts on that, what was your like I guess you could say experience, or what was like your interaction with EDP's content before this whole situation with him being exposed? What
You know,
was
it's oh yeah, yeah. You know, with me, it's kind of weird because EDP, I used to watch some of his videos like when the Eagles were kind of like the best team in the NFL, like when they won the whole thing in 2018. I started really checking his content because that was when he was kind of really going off when he saw like a big spike in terms of views. So I really loved his content. I didn't watch a lot of it, so I only watched a lot of his like NFL related to like I love the Eagles when he was ranting in the parking lot in his car or something like that. When he's doing something like that or just in his room. But then I would see like the other weird, like, you know, the more like sexual stuff and I just the
yeah
weird stuff where he takes off his shirt and does this all weird stuff. I didn't really watch that. So I thought he was a funny persona. I thought that he was someone that was really cool in terms of like the NFL where you have super fans and like there are super fan channels like he EDP loved a guy named El Presidor and I watch El Presidor a lot and I've watched a lot of his stuff since quarantine of last year. I thought that El Presidor is hilarious. He hates the Browns. I mean, he loves the Browns, but he hated the management from like when they used to be horrible. And he used to always talk about EDP and EDP used to talk about him. So that's how I kind of like only see EDP as like an NFL super fan, but an Eagles super fan. And that's like that was the whole like relationship that I saw as a viewer watching EDP.
yeah, for me, I didn't really interact more with his content. Really, I think I did like find out about him like yeah around that time what you were saying when the Eagles were the Super Bowl champions. I think that's when I found out about EDP as well. I never watched the guy's videos. I just know that he had like a very big meme presence and people love to use make memes out of out of things he did. There was this one meme. It was like all when you're logging into your account from a different like device that you don't typically use, and it was like, and then it was like pointing a gun, like, who are you?
I remember that video. That was really bad. Like I felt bad for EDP that he has to live like that. But yeah, that was a funny meme. Yeah, he's very meme worthy. I think a lot of trolls liked him in terms of just how they could like poke fun at him.
Yeah, and if you're not aware about the situation, so EDP got exposed for being a pedophile,
Mhm.
and he got confronted by these guys
Predator
named
poachers. Predator
Poachers,
poachers.
and also it was this other guy CC Unit, but
Mhm.
which is if you've seen the video, like the original video that got millions of views that got deleted because the guy that had that had the video, his channel got deleted. It was Chet Goldstein, but the guy's real name was Alex Rosen, and he if you watch the video is there, but
Mhm.
it's on CC. If you go on CC Unit and you type EDP, there the video is there on their channel now. And Alex Rosen was the big guy with the beard, with the blue shirt in the video, and then CC Unit is was the other guy with the black hair and the black mask.
Yep.
And um, the crazy thing was like how it just kept on turning. You thought it would be the end of it. EDP gets exposed as a being a pedophile, but no, it was more to this than the guy, the big guy, Alex Rosen.
Mm-hmm.
He faced accusations of being racist, and
Yeah. Yeah, there was like I remember that, and yeah, you could go ahead.
then people were saying also pedophile because there was this weird clip, and actually, in my opinion, that's worse than him saying the N word
Mm-hmm.
clips because the, I'm gonna tell you this about this Alex Rosen guy. So I was watching his video, couple of his other videos that you did before it got deleted, his channel,
Mm-hmm.
and you could tell this guy really isn't on the mature side. You could tell the guy really has a frat boy maturity level to him because I swear to you, on one of the videos, he had one of it. He made out a shirt to, and he made this the predator wearing. It said like I eat. I'm keeping it clean, but I eat butt.
Yeah, it not only that, but I used to watch Predator Poachers a lot. Like they're out of Texas, I believe, and they
Yeah,
used to do like so many weird meetups, and they used to harass people in stores. They weren't even like sometimes they weren't even respectful to people. Like they would just really downgrade people, really make a scene. They weren't cool about it, you know. And that was like the one thing where I'm like, honestly, if these guys ever did something like this, that's why like these predator poacher type channels. There was one, I believe, and it like there was one type where they like I don't know what city it was in, it was somewhere in the US, and they actually wrongfully accused someone and they got like lawsuits and everything, and they like took the same tactics as the main predator poachers, like the guy Alec Rosen, like what he
yeah,
did. And they did like those same type tactics where they would like harass them, do different things. Eric Konevsky and Bravo, what's the guy's name? Something Bravo. They do something similar to that. They've done different ones, but Eric Konevsky's like this funny bodybuilder dude, and he like plays like a Russian mafia member, and that's kind of his like YouTube. But they started doing predator poacher type videos, and Eric Konevsky's a big bald muscle head guy. I think he actually is like a big bodybuilder, and they've done things in the past, like recently, where they bring in like a sting operation, and they like get these different bodybuilders in different areas of like California, and they've got them, and when they like take them in, they've like just drawn on their faces, like humiliated them, taking their shirts off, shaved their heads, like done weird things to them, and like harassed them in some ways, but they were found guilty of being pedophiles, the people that
yeah.
they caught.
It's like a very weird Alex Rosen. Whenever he stops like making videos and stops being someone on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna have a very complicated legacy
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, he's exposing predators, but some of the things he's done is like very questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue on this EDP timeline, it doesn't stop after people find out that Alex Rosen isn't the hero that people thought he was, and then EDP acts like nothing ever happened. He's trying to make a website now, and he had a Facebook, and this was so crazy. He he wasn't showing that he was doing the whole EDP persona, but he wasn't doing that when he got confronted. He was talking about the confrontation, and then he was on his EDP stuff, acting like a tough guy,
Mm.
which was so ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. I think this situation has like literally canceled two people, both Alex Rosen and EDP. I
It's like
think
a
that
kamikaze.
yeah, it really was. And they were just thinking Alex was just thinking that this was just gonna hurt EDP, you know. This was gonna be like the big catch where they would get maybe a half a thousand or maybe like 500,000 subs right there because of they got one of the biggest YouTubers literally and figuratively. That's what like that's where they were going for. Oh, we have this big catch. Oh, we've heard about these allegations with EDP and oh, we're going to get them today. And then, well, people did their research and they weren't happy with it. And, although people were discouraged with what they saw with EDP, and I don't know if you've seen the chat logs, those are awful.
Yeah.
Like,
He was calling the girl princess.
yeah. And that the pictures he was sending her.
He
Oh
what
my God.
what was he thinking when he said the pit? What is your what are you thinking when you send a picture of you taking a dump?
I know, right? That's what I don't get. And he was taking some weird photos, weird questions. They said, I think the person even admitted I was 13 or something, and he didn't care. And this is where I think this story is really just speaking a lesson to like how, your biggest inspirations behind the camera could be also the biggest demons. In EDP's case, everyone thought he was this lovable NFL guy who, was a tough guy sometimes, made people laugh. He was really someone who was kind of a form of entertainment where a lot of people relied on his videos to laugh, after a long day or whatever. And then they see what he does on the side with these weird DMs, these weird sexual, like, pedophile like behavior, and people get turned off. And it's just sad because EDP really had this huge thing going. And I mean, it was going for a while. And he's an older man. And to see his career just come to a flap, and now he wants to really come back. And everyone knows now his big dark secret. And, he's not going to get away with it. People don't like it anymore. And that doesn't stand with their principles.
Yeah. It's just a bizarre situation just all around. Like when you think that it's over, then another Uno reverse card happens again.
Mm-hmm.
You have one new voice message and 15 saved messages.
Oh, sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, something because I'm in my dad's car right now, and like the Bluetooth connected. So
Oh,
so
shoot.
that's what happened with that.
Hey,
Oh,
no problem. No problem.
so when you first saw, or actually, when did you first?
To return the message under top.
When did you? Oh my goodness.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Take your time here.
All right, we should be all set with that.
Little delay.
Yeah. When did you first hear about the situation with EDP?
It was a couple days later. I mean, on my YouTube, I watch a lot of different YouTube streams. Like I'm Dante. I watch DJ Ghost sometimes. So I think one of those people, I think I might have just heard it from someone as well. Yeah, I take like YouTube breaks at night after like I'm done with like this year was busy. So after I'd come back from work late at night, I kind of would just give myself like, all right, a little downtime. So I just watch YouTube and I'd watch whatever, like any type of like YouTube, like Aiden Ross. I don't know if you know Aiden Ross.
Oh man. Like the polo prank he did, that was
Oh my
funny.
gosh. all these, yeah, but Aiden Ross talked about it. Like all these different people. DJ Ghost talked about it. People even playing video games were talking about it. Like this was huge. This was like the story. I think I even saw it in the news. Like they wrote news articles on legit news. Like USA Today had it, like all these different news things. And I just heard it and I was like, all right, I want to look into this. And I don't know who I was watching. I was watching a bunch of different videos that night about EDP. And then I really was like, oh my gosh, this is really serious. Predator poachers, like, wow. I was planning on watching them maybe over that weekend. I think that was what I was going to plan on watching. And I just heard that and I was like, this is insane. And it went all over the news. So this wasn't fake. Like this was actually legit. Like sometimes, people just make up drama stuff. And then if it's not really in the news or no one really writes an article about it, you kind of question the legitimacy of it. Well, like this case, I didn't really question it because I saw it all over the
Yeah.
news, saw people really talking about it on Instagram and everything. And yeah, I saw it and I was like, I was pretty shocked, you know.
I first heard about it. I mentioned this guy on my diss track. I made this months ago because
Mm-hmm.
the final straw with me and this EDP thing was he straight up admitted it. He was like, "Who cares?" Basically,
Mm.
if a girl dresses skimpy, don't play the victim. That's what he said, and that's what made me uh, do the diss track on him months ago when
Oh boy.
allegations were first started, and this guy that first like was exposing them,
Soul
Cold
Raven?
Raven.
Yeah, Soul Raven. Yep.
Yeah, Cold Raven. That's how I heard about it because I subscribed to him, and I got I was up. It was a Sunday, and I saw the notification, and then I saw EDP got caught. And I was
Oh,
like, no way.
oh my
And then
gosh.
Cole Raven had a link to the Instagram. It showed a picture of EDP getting confronted.
Yeah, I don't know if did he even go to jail? I think
No.
he didn't. I think he walked away, right? He called someone and just like walked away.
Yeah, that's the thing. This guy, his name's Felipe, I believe.
Mhm.
Something like that. One of his friends, and he was saying, "Oh man, I'm cutting off ties with EDP," but supposedly I was hearing that it was a lie.
Hmm. That's insane. Yeah, that was like I remember he just called someone and DJ Ghost when he did his he said I know exactly where this is. This is Bakersfield, California. And he like told everyone where it was and I didn't know EDP even moved out there. Like I didn't even know anything like that and EDP like trying to call his friends and stuff and it really backfired on him and it really hurt him. And yeah, that was like insane when I saw the video and the chat log. They did the whole thing. I think one of the females who like act as like a decoy. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the live stream of that. That was like 3 or 4 days later. It was like a press conference. It was kind of funny. And she's like, Alex is my boss, but Alex and I are here today to show you the whole chat logs. We're going to go really slowly through it. And you saw every single conversation, every detail. They wouldn't talk about it, but they would just scroll right through. And I was watching the I'm Dante stream for that one. And oh my gosh, some of the
You
things
saw the
were,
whole
it was awful.
you saw the whole thing?
I saw a lot of what he said. I would just
Wow.
pause and then just see what he would say. That picture really was the one though. The picture of that surprise was, oh my God, something else. Really shows his character though.
Yeah, people had took issue with like the confrontation, and people take issue with like the way Alex Rosen approaches like these confrontations. So what do you think about when he's making jokes? Like one of the jokes he made was saying you can't run from your problems literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that's one thing I think with Alex where he kind of draws a line with a lot of people. This is like some serious stuff he's talking about, and he's in the business of something that is serious. And like when he kind of just makes jokes about people, it kind of just shows that this guy's like ethics aren't really up to date in some ways. He's kind of immature. And it also shows he's kind of just kind of has no respect for people either way. And I think that's really bad. And it really kind of hurts his character as well. And I think with this one, since it was such a high profile person, people took offense to it. I think he could get away with it if it was just some average dude on the street. Like if he said something like that to a big guy who was kind of someone who we don't like, people don't know, who doesn't have a following or whatever. I think that would have been like probably accepted. But since this is the EDP, someone who is on YouTube for quite a while, has had a loyal fan base. I don't know who's loyal to him anymore. But since it was that, it really hurt predator poachers as well. This is like kind of along the lines of getting people off the streets who, or at least reporting them or searching for people who are a menace to society. And the way that he handled his operations showed that he was kind of like in a rookie kind of way. He acted very immature, didn't handle himself correctly, and it also kind of hurt the reputation of predator poachers, in my opinion.
And this is the last question I want to ask about this before we
Mhm.
move on to the next topic, which is gonna be about since he also Aceman also has his, his podcast he does with his friend called the Peace and Chaos Program, and one thing that really made me interested and think, oh, I should talk about this with him when I'm doing my podcast is UFOs. So
Mm.
we're gonna be talking about things like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, what we think about all that after I ask him about this question. So have you do you know about this he's a Twitch streamer. He like roasts conservatives. His name's Hassan Piker.
Oh yeah, Hassan Abi. Yep, definitely I do.
Yeah.
Very familiar with
So
him.
he was asking he was asking a question and it made me think. I wonder what you think about this. He was he was more on the side of like about these YouTube predator exposed channels being problematic because it seems it's more for getting the views than it really is about confronting these predators. And he was saying, how do they like conduct these sting operations? What do they like hit up random dudes and ask, oh, you wanna and just say whatever to make them bite the bait?
Hmm.
So it leaves the question. It does make me wonder, how do they exactly start off with these sting operations? Because with the EDP situation, I believe they were the first one. They initiated the conversation with him.
Hmm. I think. Well, I know To Catch a Predator. I know Chris Hansen really like gets these good. I think they just start literally on social media and just try to fish people in. I don't know how Chris Hansen does it, but I know that he really gets real life predators, and they get like people that they know who are repeat offenders. So that's kind of what that show is about. They have a lot of people who come back again, make the same mistake, go back to jail. That's kind of the thing with that show. I don't know about this predator poachers. Like, honestly, I don't know how they meet up with these people online. That's the question. You don't just add, a random dude on Snapchat that you don't know. Like, that's not really real life, in a way. It's like, oh, a total stranger, never heard of them. Probably a young kid, probably not going to add up someone you don't know. If you're being really careful, I don't think that that's realistic. Like, if you have a private Instagram, like, I know there are people out there who, you know, kind of do that stuff, but at the same time, it's like really, are they are they really going to like try to stalk you? I mean, there are stalkers out there, but how do they get these people to go into Snapchats, know that this is not a troll? This is like a legit 50-year-old man who fits the description of a pedophile. Like, how do they get these people in? I have the same questions as Hassan Piker. I have the same questions. Like, how do they know this is legit? And also, I think that they want the reactions of the viewers. I used to watch those shows and I used to think they were hilarious. When the ones in Walmart where they'd go in and they'd find the weird guy, they'd run after him, they call him names, whatever. And I mean, I watched um the other one I was talking about with Eric Konevsky as well, and John Bravo. I thought those are good too because they play characters and then they actually get people to the house of the person. It's a pretty legit sting, but like, how do they get this to be? How do they first recruit? That's my question. How do you recruit them? Do you find them in a database? Do you hear about these people? Do you test people? I don't know. That's the whole thing. Are these social experiments that just happen to be pedophiles? I don't know.
That's a good thing you bring up about like the database. It makes me think. I was watching a couple of videos from CC Unit today,
Hmm.
and he the guy this guy that's on the videos, I think there's other people that are off camera, but this guy, he goes by the name Ghost, the black haired guy that was in the EDP video. And he'll say this in the videos, like, I know your information. So those to make me question, do they look at like do they look at records and look at like sex offender lists and
Hmm.
see if that's someone they could gun down? Do they do it that way, or do they go on social media? And it's a real interesting question that if I did have the opportunity ever to ask someone that does such work as this, that's what I would ask them.
Yeah, I would too. Like, because I know that the sex offender list, like that actually is published. They have to tell you where the offender lives, so what their address is, where their residence is, how far they live from a school. Like that actually is all given in the database. But my question is, how do they find these people online? Like, they don't tell you their cell phone number. I don't think they tell you anything really personal. Like, they don't tell you their Twitter handle, anything like that. So the main question is, how did they get their like social media information, if they're even on social media? I think half of it is that they really get gullible people. I think that's one of them, because some of the people do look like they could be falling for a lot of things, like on that Predator Poacher show. I think an also thing is that it could be scripted in a way. Hate to say it, but I think some of this could be scripted. They could get people to play it, and it could be fake as well, because I think there were YouTube channels trying to debunk predator poachers in some of their operations and saying that this could be fake, especially with some of the things that they found when they approached some random dude in a Walmart, shopping, or at a supermarket shopping. It's just kind of stereotypical, and I think that some of that is false. And they could have made up these Snapchat profiles and then try to link them to people, and then the people say, "I didn't say that," and then you could have had Alex make up two Snapchats, and he could have snapped himself back and forth. You just question legitimacy, because police operations are a lot more advanced. They have a lot more information. So that's why the police ones are really legitimate, and they can get people because they know a lot more about you. But it's with these Alexes and these like small little predator poacher units that everyone says, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm kind of skeptical in a way.
That's a real interesting theory right there. I didn't really even consider that they were fake, because I'm thinking, why would you script something as serious as that? I know like fake fake pranks have been a thing on YouTube for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
I would you wouldn't think to your mind, oh, this topic that's serious like this would be fake. I would I would understand, like, oh, some like, do you remember a prank invasion back in the day?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so, like his pranks, it was so obvious that they were scripted. It was so obvious. Like, it would be like making out with a pregnant woman, a prank, and like, what?
Oh,
Oh, if you get this question wrong, I get to make out with you. Like, what?
that is so stupid. And then there's these other ones, right? And there's this guy named Arya. He does his own YouTube pranks, but he does it so that he has it with his friends. So they're literally just like, it's literally like social experiments, because you have people in on it. Like one of them was slapping the you know what of a woman. Like,
Yeah.
just the guy would walk by, slap it, and then he'd walk by, and then there would be another dude consequently walking right by, and then they'd all blame him. And it was just to get reactions. And then there's these other stupid ones where it's like the guy dresses up in an old man costume. He's a walker. He's like going across this really populated area, and then he just levels the guy down, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" Like they would just do that, and that these pranks are pretty much scripted, because if you did this in real life, the police would be called. But there are some people that don't do scripted. I'm sure there's a lot, but there are scripted ones out there that kind of fall into the same line as predator poachers.
Yeah, like one guy I could think of that's pranks, or I don't even know if you consider or if these are pranks or just him just showing how much confidence he has and that nothing phases him at all. Like he's got negative 100 anxiety.
Mm.
Q Park.
Oh yeah, Q Park. That was toy. I love that guy. Yeah, he has no filter. I think that he doesn't care what he does, and that's the one thing that I do like about Q Park. He just like dances out there, like he goes in the streets, doesn't care. It's kind of cringeworthy, but honestly, he doesn't care, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, that's what's so great about Q Park. It's so hilarious his videos.
I know he was doing those whole like Latin series where he was just like listening to reggaeton songs. And then like you would know that some people like know the song and they just like laugh at it. But like that's the stuff you can't really fake because it's like, guys, I'm gonna dance. Like everyone's just gonna do fake reactions. But when you do a real reaction to that song, him dancing, the Nicki Minaj and 6ix9ine Fifi. Oh my gosh, yeah. That was and he dressed up
Like
as her. Oh my gosh.
that's what's so funny about Q Park. Like the he will imitate like the weird dances or weird moments in a music video, but he'll get like these cheaper alternatives to them. It's like so makes it so funny. Like he has like this toy toy mouse he has in some of this
Oh my
video.
gosh. I think there was one and he just like started dancing and then people would join in and dance. Oh yeah, and then the mouse would go on top of it. And then
Oh,
he'd jump up on a garbage can, like do a twerk or something, and then he'd go into the fountain for a couple of them, and it'll be like everyone's just looking at him like a whack job. He'd go in the street and just do dancing, and then he'd sing, and then he'd be in like a shirt and tie, and he would like look like a businessman, and then he'd
yeah.
start acting like a child. That is like raw comedy, though. That is like pure comedy.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is about like just mystical things such
Mhm.
as Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all of that. First thing we're gonna start off with is since you talked about UFOs on your most recent episode of the Peace and Chaos program,
Mhm.
uh, do you believe in extraterrestrials and aliens and like people that have said that they've got inducted and stuff like that?
So Big Don and I, we spoke about something where we've had like this weird encounter. It was more of just like seeing some weird thing in the sky flash and then it's gone in 5 seconds. So Big Don and I, we go to a school like on the coast on the Atlantic Ocean. Um, and we have seen something weird. And because like UFOs, they claim like to hover over water areas, he believes that it was a UFO. And I was walking, actually, weirdly enough, I'm a security guard on campus last semester. So I was just walking around campus late at night, probably like, actually, it was right before my work. So it was like 8:55 at night. So it was dark out. It was like February. So it was dark out for at least 2.5 hours already. I was just going into work and I saw some weird light thing. And it didn't look like a plane because there's an airport close, kind of close, and there's some other things that go by, but it wasn't a blimp, it wasn't a plane, and I didn't really know what it was. It was this flashing weird thing, and it just flew by. Whatever, okay, maybe I was just seeing something. Well, my friend said saw the same thing 2 years prior in that same location, so we think maybe something went on. I don't know about abductions. I think that is kind of, people claim that there have been some people that claim they've been abducted. You can see the videos on YouTube. I don't really buy that. I think that might just be false. um I think there are beings out there. I have this weird feeling there are beings out there. They have claimed that since Mars has like water on the surface and also it could be sustainable for human life, I think there are like there are microorganisms. So technically, there's like life out there in a way. They're like these little microscopic beings. So they have found that. So I think that if we are going to ask if is life out there, like that microscopic being is determined life. But I think that since our galaxy and our solar system is so like there's so many different solar systems out there, since we only are a part of one, and I don't know if we're going to see in our lifetime all the other solar systems since there's so many. I think that there is some sort of life out there. We just don't know because I think we're only confined to Earth, that we're only going to know the life that's on Earth. And I'm sure that there's another planet out there that in another solar system that has that same question. Is there another life out there? And I think that our consciousness believes that there is something out there, but we just don't know. I think people want to know. And I mean, I want to know. And I'm sure you want to know too. That's like the big mystery right now. But, and I think they do too. But it's just when are we going to encounter them? I think that's going to be the whole thing that it's going to take some time. But I'm skeptical. I'm kind of optimistic that there is some life out there. If they believe that in our solar system, our planet is probably the most like sustainable for human life. But I'm sure that there might be a planet in another solar system that scientists haven't found yet that could be similar to Earth.
Yeah, and my dad says this. He believes in life on other planets as well because he says this, and I agree with him when he says this. That you're telling me that Earth is the only place that has life on planets? That's really hard for me to believe. And with the abductions,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I make this joke about it, and it's like a joke about speaking on society when I say about this, and it's that I don't think you've heard any allegations of abductions like in recent years. And I think it's because aliens are like, man, these people aren't worth abducting humans, man. Are you serious?
Oh
So
yeah.
that's why I think you haven't heard allegations of people getting abducted because the aliens are like, shake my head at society
Oh yeah.
with the way it is.
I think we used to be scared of aliens and now they're kind of scared of us. I think that's
Yeah,
how it is. I think that's how it
especially
is.
especially with the Area 51, the Area 51 raid.
Oh my gosh. That was hilarious.
People are like, bring it on, man.
I think no one showed up. I think no one showed up to that.
Yeah, I think people did show up, but it wasn't like this big thing, like if there was like it was anticipated to be.
Oh, that was hilarious though. Like all the people in the area are like, yeah, all it is like a military base, middle of nowhere. But come. You can stay in our bed and breakfast. That's alien themed. There's like some lady like getting interviewed. She's like, we would love all these alien enthusiasts. This will bring in a lot of money. And then like honestly, like only X amount of people showed up. And then everyone's like, oh, it was kind of like the fire festival. I don't know if you knew about that.
Oh, it was like some big concert or was supposed to be, but it was like a big scam in reality.
Yeah, people were like homeless intense. It was like a big scam. Everyone just said, you know what, screw it. It was in Bahamas, I believe. 2018 it happened. And yeah, it was like a big issue. Or 2017. It was like 2017, 2018 in the Bahamas somewhere, one of those islands. And yeah, big issue. No one showed up. I guess everyone canceled last minute. Some artists were supposed to perform, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of the same thing where everyone was hyping for it. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is going to be a great concert, great event," and then yeah, we canceled last minute. And then everyone was stranded, living in tents. I don't know what they were eating. And then everyone was like, screw it, we're going home. And they all like flew back. That was a absolute crapshoot.
Yeah, now let's move on to other things that other mythical things that people talk about the existence of, like Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. So we'll go to next one to Bigfoot.
Mm. Um, I don't know. I see a lot of Bigfoot enthusiasts out there. They believe that there's like a being that's kind of tall, like a bear. But again, I don't know. I think that could be a stretch. I think what Bigfoot kind of looks like is like a Neanderthal in a way. That's what I think of it as, like almost a developed Homo sapien. So I'm thinking it's something where people are hoping that maybe there's a de-evolution of humans. That's where I'm thinking of it as, where it's like, oh, if humans devolved again and became like Neanderthals, then yeah, maybe that would be a Bigfoot. But yeah, Bigfoots, I don't think they're real. I don't think that they're real. If they were real, I'm sure that they would have got hunted off by now because they were so exotic. I don't know. I just think that those are not real. I think that humans are like the Homo sapiens, but I think that if we were talking about thousands of years ago when people were developing, I'm sure that there were Neanderthals like between human and like an ape and a human. I think that that primate was real back in the day, like thousands of years ago, but and it probably looked a lot like what a Bigfoot looked like. You know, it had a lot of human qualities. It lived in the woods, probably an omnivore, things like that. But I think today, it I don't think there's a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I was watching some YouTube videos, and there was this guy who was talking about, oh man, I saw a Bigfoot, and then I think it was in the comment section, people saying, oh yeah, I saw a Bigfoot as well. I'm thinking, you people talk about you seeing a Bigfoot, but none of you can get a clear image of it. All these years of people saying, claiming that they see Bigfoot, but not a clear image of it whatsoever. The best quality film we have of a Bigfoot, supposedly, is that film, like that infamous 1960 film where that Bigfoot was walking in the forest, and that I think that's some fake news, because what was that? The Bigfoot was looking right into the camera like, oh, this is your cue right now.
Yeah, that I think is BS. Yeah, I don't think that's real. And the reason why I think it's not real is just because I think it's overhyped. I think people are obsessed with it. There are people that believe. I know I was watching a video. I don't know if you know the Nelk Boys. I don't know if you're familiar with that channel. They do
Yeah, I heard of them, I think. Yeah.
so they played a big prank on a dude who's a Bigfoot enthusiast. Like he lives in a wood cabin in the middle of the woods in like Wyoming or somewhere. And he does these huge like Bigfoot excursions like almost every day. You know how like academia, like how they everyone specializes in something in academia, and how like
Yeah.
they write these reports and how like they like work with people from different universities and colleges in the US and Canada and elsewhere. Well, this guy was like writing things about how he believes Bigfoot is like in the US and all this stuff, and how one day they like played a big prank on him, and they went to like they went on a little excursion right by this guy's cabin, and this guy, somebody dressed up in a Bigfoot but stood really far away, and it really like just the guy believed that there was a Bigfoot there, and it was just insane how he actually believed there was a Bigfoot. He believed that Bigfoot was there. And it was like so stupid because
Yeah.
the guy, everyone was like, oh, there's Bigfoot. And the guy believed it. And just showing that how gullible he was and believing that, oh my gosh, and how, it looked like a human in so many ways, and how BS that was just so stupid.
Yeah, so what are like some additional thoughts you think about that infamous Bigfoot tape where where the Bigfoot's walking in the woods, and then the Bigfoot is looking for the camera, saying cheese. Essentially, that's how I look at it as.
Oh yeah, same here. I think that is 60s like production right then and there. And I think people back in the day weren't used to that kind of quality for cameras. So I think that it kind of left a lot of people on edge. And I think if you look back in the 60s, I think like historically as well, a lot of people were a little anxious with everything going on in terms of all the like the changing politics and the changing world climate. So I think that kind of form of entertainment was kind of also like an anxiety prone thing. So I think that it also was something where they could kind of pull it off on people who maybe were worried about so many things, and how like today that would be a meme so fast people would say that's false. But I think back in the day, people were like, when they didn't have the internet and they relied so much on TV and production, and people didn't have that experience of knowing what that is, I think people would have fell for it. But I today, that would have been a meme. That would have been on the meme board by this evening. Would have been right next to all the other memes from today.
Yeah, ex- exactly with that. And there was this claim. Someone was saying, "Oh well, I think it was like a holiday. I was going down the wormhole of that with Bigfoot videos, and
Mm-hmm.
someone was claiming, oh well, that costume. If that was a costume, that was like a very high design costume. It was some not even like people in Hollywood would have something like that." But here's my response to that claim. This was the 1960s we're talking about. So it's not like the quality was good. So it's not like we could see the fabric,
Mm-hmm.
the, the entire fabric of that costume that this Bigfoot was wearing. And just the look at the camera is just what gets me about the that clip.
Oh, it does
That
too.
was that was the quote unquote Bigfoot's cue. Imagine this. That'd be funny if there's someone pulled this prank. They had the Celtics player Taco Fall, who's 7'5". They had him in a Bigfoot costume.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow, that would be the funniest prank. They could play it on that guy because that guy is so gullible. He believes anything is real, I believe. I think he's just looking for his day. I think also a lot of people, I don't want to be like mean about people who are enthusiasts, but I think sometimes they just become so like involved that they kind of it's just wishful thinking at their point where they're like, oh my gosh, is Bigfoot real? Oh my gosh, it is real. And then they see it and they're like, oh, it's not. That's not it. False alarm. Tomorrow, guys, we're gonna see it. And that's just this wishful thinking of keep on, oh, we're gonna see it, we're gonna see it. I know it's real, I know it's real, and then it never happens. And then you never doubt it because it's ingrained in your head when you do all this research and all this studying of Bigfoot.
I feel in a way it's kind of like them wishing that is because something such as Superman
Mm-hmm.
or the Flash, like a superhero like that, they don't exist. So they're looking for something that's just like out of the ordinary, and they're hoping that yes, this is real, but that's not the case we got here.
Yep, that's the harsh reality.
Now the next thing, I think this is even easier than Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster.
Oh boy. The Loch Ness Monster is, I believe people think it's real. It's kind of hard because of how big it was, how unique it had for a structure. Also, just by the way of, I think this was like back in the, I don't know what century it was, 18th or 19th century when they believe they saw it. The picture of it, I don't know. That could be made up. Um, just the whole like thing of what it could have been. I mean, it could have been like a Like, I don't know what mammal I could equate it to. Maybe like a skinny hippo. Maybe something like that, where it's like skinny, but it also is it's a water shredder. But I don't know what that is. That looks like a dinosaur, like something like along the lines of like a Jurassic kind of mammal. Um, I don't think it's real. Although that picture is kind of, it looks a little realistic. It's like kind of a sketch, but um, I don't know if it's real. It's definitely not. It's definitely not around today. I can tell you that.
Oh, you're talking about that black and white one where,
It's like head sticking out of the water.
yeah, that was proven to be a hoax.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, that picture right there was proven to be a hoax. Not the Bigfoot staring into the camera to say cheese, but that was proven to be a hoax.
Yeah, I always thought that. Yeah, It's definitely not real today, but yeah, I heard about some things with that. Just with that in general, though, like the Loch Ness monster, I don't really think it's real. I don't really think it is.
They were saying, because I was big into those kind of like specials when I was a kid, like big searching for Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. I think it was like a show. It was talking about like mythical things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It had like I think it was like Michelle Trachtenberg. She was like
Okay.
the host of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was who was the host of it, and that's what they would. That's like what the shows would be about, something such as the Loch Ness Monster. And what I hear is that the Loch Ness Monster is supposedly a plesiosaur. And yeah, I agree with you again with it not being real. A plesiosaur. Hold up. So dinosaurs have been extinct for a very long time, and you're telling me this little plesiosaur survived that? And and out of all places, this plesiosaur is in Scotland.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I know that, like, you know how crocodiles and alligators are like sort of like related, and also birds as well, how they're related to pterodactyls, and how some of those water dinosaurs, how they're actually like they were related to some of the T-Rexes. I could see that, but I don't know if a plesiosaur, maybe it was evolved over the years and maybe it became something like a Loch Ness monster. Who knows? I'm sure that maybe you'd find like some water mammal living maybe in the swamps of Scotland that has some like genetic sequence that is related to a plesiosaur, but I just am not sure. I mean, there would be a lot of research going into it. And also, like when you really search it, maybe it does have one strand of DNA that is, identical. And maybe it is like 1.5%, like how dogs and wolves are related by 2%, how it could be related, maybe by, maybe it's, I don't know, something in terms of its DNA. And maybe it is related, but I don't know. But there could be a mammal out there today that is a direct relation to the Loch Ness monster.
And people seem to do this. I was thinking about this, pondering when I'm like walking nearby lakes. They'll just take some ordinary object, but they're like real far away, and they'll be like, "Oh, this mysterious thing. Oh, is this the Loch Ness monster?"
That is absolutely clout chasing.
People will be doing stuff like that. I swear.
Yeah, that is absolute clout chasing. Yeah, that
All
is,
right,
yeah.
yeah. The last thing we're gonna talk about in this segment, moving on from mythical monsters into ghosts, Amityville. Do you buy that whole story with the family? First off, how knowledgeable are you about like the whole story with the family claiming that when they moved in that they were haunted?
What is this again?
It was like Amityville was like this infamous thing where this guy murdered like his entire family, I think,
Hmm.
and then there's like it's just been had this legacy of like supposedly being haunted. I believe, and this family, I believe they're the first family that moved in since those murders did happen, and then they were claiming that it was haunted, all kinds of things like the window would shut down on the kid's hand or stuff like that.
Hmm. I think ghosts, to a certain degree, they could be real in terms of spirituality. I think that people could. I don't know. It's a hard thing to say. In terms of you know guessing or just in terms of kind of believing in something that you have no evidence of. I think that I'm not too familiar with that case, but I think that overall it could be something hard to look into. I'm not too familiar with that case, but I think overall, when you look at ghosts in general and just spirituality, I think that some people do believe it in a way.
Do you personally believe in like ghosts and all that, haunting houses, like some paranormal activity stuff?
It's hard to say. It's kind of hard to look into. Um, I've watched those shows like Paranormal Activity and that movie and those other ones kind of based on that. I think those are a little dramatic. I'm sure that there could be some sort of thing out there where it is spirituality, where maybe a dead ancestor like comes back or something. I've heard stories um specifically about places in the area. There's something at my college actually, and there's like beliefs to be a death at a house like near our campus, and they believe it's haunted. And there's this whole talk about it. Oh, it's haunted. No, it's not haunted. It's not haunted. And people claim that, oh, there's these activities. And every time I've heard about not just this place, but every time that there is haunting, they claim that 3 in the morning is the hour when the ghosts return. Um, I don't know. I've seen these weird docu series of people going into haunted houses. Oh, this is haunted, and then nothing really happens. And then I've also seen some weird things with dolls and everything like that. I think that there is some sort of spirituality. It's hard because you don't really have. There's some people that have a lot of evidence of it, and then some people that don't. I haven't experienced with it, but I think that it could be out there.
Yeah, oh my goodness. You say 3 a.m. makes me think of these YouTubers that be doing these stupid 3 a.m. challenges.
That is like beyond dumb.
Yeah, 3 a.m. challenge. I saw the clown from It.
Remember that whole hype with all the people walking around in the clown costumes?
Yeah.
Remember that? That was so stupid. Coming at like 8 o'clock at night and just walk around. Oh, that is so dumb. But yeah, that's those videos right there are so dumb. And there were people that used to go to like I don't know if you know Joe Weller. He's like a YouTuber. He's done some like weird stuff in the past. WWE. He's like a big bodybuilder guy. He used to do a series where he'd go into abandoned places, and there's a ton of those people. I don't know if you've seen like the abandoned place type YouTube section. It was big like 4 or 5 years ago. They used to go to like mental asylums, like closed down ones, closed down amusement parks where there were deaths, places like that, haunted houses, mansions abandoned, all these places, and they would just say, "Oh look, oh look, there's ghosts here," and it would be like a shattered glass, and you knew it was like those teenage people who like threw the rock through the window and all this like graffiti and stuff, and you're like, "Oh yeah, this is where everyone goes to drink." You're like, "Yeah, this is not haunted. This is just some dumpy place that needs to be knocked down and rebuilt."
Yeah, for me personally, I'm not gonna deny the existence of ghosts, but like something such as Amityville, I have doubt that it happened because when you're a ghost, aren't you not? Aren't you like you're supposed to like cease to exist? When you're a ghost, aren't you not supposed to be able to interact with things?
Yeah, I don't think you are. I don't know.
So
I think dogs are the only beings that can sense a ghost. I think that's it. Very
yeah,
weird.
so it like so it gets rid of the point when like the family of the Amityville was saying, oh, like the doors were shut, the doors were shut, and I'm not, I don't remember exactly, but I know that they said like a lots of crazy stuff happened when they were living in there, and then they moved out like 28 days later or something like that after they just
Hmm.
moved in. But I have doubts of that because I I think ghosts aren't can't really interact with anything. If ghosts are real, I think they're just there. You can't really do anything with them. They can't do anything to you. So I
Mhm.
would think that's what would be the case if ghosts are indeed real. And when you mention about like mental asylums and stuff like that, I think the hype factor is what causes people to think, oh, this is haunted, or when if they hear like a noise in a place where something really bad happened,
Mhm.
they associate it with a ghost as opposed to, oh, it might have been winds or something like that.
Exactly. I think people become so paranoid when they're in a setting that may have had a dramatic, event that occurred years ago. Like in that specific one, I mean, there's other people that go to these asylums in different countries. And I remember there was one video and they heard a screech and everyone said, "Oh my gosh, this is the this was the tortured girl." And they all made this assumption and then it was a homeless man down the hall, literally. And they do this I think for a reason. I think when people I think this might be human nature in a way. You kind of suspect it's something that everyone wants it not to be. In this case, they were suspecting it to be, this ghost that was this girl spirit who was tortured in this, you know, asylum that's now abandoned. When in reality, it was just a man who was homeless who seeked shelter there, and how everyone kind of that's their instinct. Sometimes their gut instinct is the thing that they don't want it to be. So it's this dreaded outcome that they don't want it to be. And then in reality, it never happens. So it's never happens. So it's something that it's just false. It's a falsehood, but they always believe that, oh, it could be a ghost. And, oh, we're afraid of it because we're in this really, um, you know, fetal position where we can't defend ourselves. And people do believe in ghosts because of that.
And it goes back to what we were talking about a little earlier about how something like Superman
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist. So people wish that something out of the ordinary, like a Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, a ghost, haunted mansions, or whatever, are legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
When I have doubts that it is, this with the ghost thing, I'm I'm on the fence on if they exist or not. But I don't think if ghosts exist, they can really do anything. Like I'm I'm a I'm inside my car or my dad's car, and right near me are a couple garbage cans. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a ghost can just knock them down.
Nah, I think ghosts they could be real, but I don't think that they have the ability to do anything forceful. I don't think that they have anything to do like they couldn't push you down to like if you walked out of your car right now, I don't think they could have the ability to push you down or right here where I'm sitting, I don't think they could knock me down. Do anything of that force or touch you or anything. I think it's more of just being there and just hearing and observing.
Yeah,
I think it's more of that. I don't think it's where they could come back and torture or smother someone who's sleeping. That right there, where the pillow's floating, yeah, that is kind of that is a little far fetched. But I think that if they are existent, I don't think that they can read into your mind, but I think that they can be in the area like where you are, being present, but they can't do anything.
And my dad was saying something about he believes in that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Maybe not to, well, actually, I think he does actually to the full extent. But my dad was saying about like a picture that was in my grandmother's old house.
Mhm.
He was saying something about like how the way it moved, like it wasn't possible that it wasn't there wasn't a plausible way that could have been done like on its own, or somebody could have moved it the way it was moved. But I feel there's an explanation for that, but
Mhm.
I don't know what exactly. But I feel there's got to be an explanation for that, because like we've been talking about, I don't think a ghost could do anything really.
True.
it,
True.
it's just there. That's it. If you see the ghost, that's it. It's not gonna do anything to you,
Mhm.
because a ghost is from a person that has ceased to exist now.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And I agree there. And I agree there. And I see like that side of it too. And saying that, it ceases to exist, but it still could be out there.
Yeah, and actually, you hear about this? This was a couple of years ago, but there was a market basket supposedly that had a ghost in that market basket, and it was on the news.
What? I'm gonna go search this up right now. I kind of want to hear about this. But yeah, go ahead. Let us know what it is. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so it was like, so I think it was supposedly, it was this ghost is supposedly like in the frozen food aisle or something like that.
Oh yeah, and the police have proof of it. Like, what the heck? Oh yeah, the police have proof, and it's just like this playful ghost. But yeah, that is so weird. It did go viral. I remember. I do remember this story, but I never really watched it. It happened in 2019. Wow, in a supermarket. Wow, that is insane. Hey, maybe it proved me wrong in saying that it can't have force. Maybe it does have force. I don't know.
Like, yeah, but I don't think, like, logically, I don't think it would be able to. If you were to see a ghost, that's just the end of the story. You see it, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that is so insane. That is insane.
All right, so now we're gonna be moving on to the last topic on our show. We're going to be talking about a little bit of basketball and a little bit of the NFL's new implementation of 17 games. So, first thing first is basketball.
Mhm.
I made my predictions about what the playoffs would be with my friend Evans. So, what are your we're a couple we're we're a couple days into the playoffs now, but still not too late to make predictions. What are your predictions for the playoffs?
First round, I say in the East, I say Sixers do win that series in 6 games. Brooklyn Nets beat the Celtics in 5. Um, Milwaukee Bucks take care of the Heat in 7 games. And for the 4 and 5 seed, I do see Atlanta outlasting the Knicks. Game 1 was proof that the Knicks need to play better. So therefore, I'm going to say that. So it's going to be the 1, 2, 3, and 5 out of the East. And then out of the West, it's a little different. The Jazz did not play well, but I do think that they do win the series. I'm saying in 6 games against the Grizzlies. For the 2 and the 7, the Lakers did not play well, and the Suns were playing pretty well. Chris Paul, though, with that injury, I'm not too sure, but I think that the Suns do beat the defending champions. I do have them winning that series. I think they're a lot more hungrier. They're a little bit more healthier. AD is not 100%. I don't know if they can bounce back. I don't want to see the Lakers win anyway, so I kind of am wishful thinking that that won't happen. For the 3 and the 6, Denver and Portland, that's hard. Portland did win game 1, but I think Denver may have more depth, even though that they lost one of their star players this year in Porter. But I think, or no, Murray. But I think that it is going to be Denver winning that. So it's going to be the 1, 2, 3, and then for the 4 and the 5, which is the game is the 4 and the 5 seed, which is Dallas and the Clippers. I have the Clippers winning that. So it's the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds. Or I think it's the 1, 2, 3, and 5. So the Clippers would play the Jazz. I have the Clippers beating the Jazz, and the Suns playing the Suns would play the who's that team? Denver. I have the Suns beating Denver. So I have the Suns and the Clippers in that, and I have the Clippers winning that. So the Clippers will be my representatives out of the West. Out of the East, it is a little bit different. I think that the Sixers do make it to the Eastern Conference Finals because I think they will single-handedly defeat the Hawks in 5. And then for the big game, Giannis versus the Nets, I think the Nets have a lot more depth, and therefore they will face Philly. I think those were the two best teams out of the East all season, and therefore I think it's going to be a good series. While the Clippers and the Suns, those were two teams that were definitely legitimate, and I think that that is going to be a good series to watch as well. But the Clippers do outlast everyone else. So Clippers versus the winner of the Sixers and the Nets. Since the Sixers have choked in the playoffs, I think they're going to do it again. I don't trust this team. Yesterday it was very close. Well, game 1 was very close between the Wizards and them. They will edge out the Wizards and they will get lucky with the Atlanta Hawks. But I think in the end, the big 3 in Brooklyn are going to go to the finals. And that is going to be a hell of a series. You're going to have Kawhi and Paul George and the Clips taking on James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie. I don't know how that's going to go. That could go either way. I might flip a coin, but I can't decide. I think the Clippers choked last year. I think they have a lot more to prove. Therefore, I think that they may have more on the morale side, but the talent goes to the Nets. And although the Nets do have weird personalities, I don't know if they can squeak it out because they don't really have a bench besides those big 3 players. While I think the Clippers have a stronger team. I don't know. Right now, I'm thinking maybe the Clippers because of what they did yesterday. But I don't know. Even though they lost, I think that they proved that they have players who can show up. And I think the Clippers could win it all.
All right. Yeah. If that were indeed to happen, I think that was the finals matchup. I think that the Nets would win it because of their depth.
Mm-hmm.
And you have arguably the second best player in the league in Kevin Durant. Then you have who you could say is the best shooting guard in the league in James Harden, and then a top 5 point guard in Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, that right there, I do agree with. That's why I'm 50-50. I don't know. I like the Clippers a little bit better right now, just because even though they did get rid of some of their talent, they still have a lot left. I do like Paul George and Kawhi is someone who I think could take on Kyrie and just pretty much outlast him, I think. But I think with KD and a shooter like James Harden, they could now, since they are the big 3, you could have them, do a combined total of 90 points and they will probably win. If those 3 players average about 30 points each, they will win a game. And I think with Kawhi and Paul George, they really have to play on their A game. They played all right the first game, but they really need to step up in the second game of this series with Dallas. They have to pull it out, shut down Luka, shut down Porzingis, get to the rim. And I mean, you saw that dunk Kawhi did the other night. Oh my gosh, he like obliterated the guy. I mean, they need to do that, better movement in the paint, and I think that they will be strong. However, if Philly upsets Brooklyn, I think that the Clippers will destroy them. I like Joel Embiid, but again, he's going to have to rely a lot on Tobias Harris because Ben Simmons is good in the paint
Yeah.
and he's a good defender, but he can't shoot a 3. If you can eliminate the 3 ball from The Sixers, Kawhi could defeat. I think Joel Embiid is the only reason why the Sixers were as good as they were this year, and Tobias Harris as well. He plays outstanding. He needs to keep on doing that. If he has an off day tomorrow, Washington could creep back into this because I don't count out Bradley Beal and I don't count out Westbrook.
All right. And you if you watch my channel, I made a rant about the Celtics and Brad Stevens. So with the Celtics struggles this year, them being so inconsistent, what do you say is the issue with them?
I think it is just bad luck in general. You had injuries this year. Marcus Smart went down. You also have Jaylen Brown. He's out for the season. Um, Also, I think that last year was a big loss for them, losing in the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like they always fall short in the playoffs. And last year was their year. Last year was the year that they should have made the finals, even though they were probably going to get bodied by the Lakers. They should have beat that Heat team. There is no excuse. They were better on paper. Celtics had
Yeah,
everyone. This year with their woes, I think a lot of it had to do with the schedule they played. I think that also some players were just off. You had Kemba, he was injured for a few games. He was being off and on. I think that really hurt their chemistry as a team. I don't think that they ever were healthy to benefit from that. I think with the Jazz, they were like one of the healthier teams where they really benefited from it. While you look at the Celtics, they could have been in the top tier. They could have been a number 4 seed playing like the Hawks right now. I think they would have been in a better position. They should be a 4 seed in my opinion. Shouldn't have been a 7 seed. So I think with that, since they really kind of screwed off in the regular season, I think a lot of it has to do with injuries and just in general chemistry. Since they didn't really play well, they're a 7 seed and they wanted to play in, but now they're facing a tough opponent.
yeah. And what do you have to say about what I've said about Brad Stevens and that he's like the common denominator since the Celtics had a really stacked team in 2019 and then they failed, got knocked out the second round, and they're doing even worse this year. Yeah, they're not as talented as previous years, but I feel like you were saying they should at least be a fourth seed with the talent they have. And when they do like this miraculous comeback nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
it shows me that they have the talent to be a team to have home court advantage for at least one round.
Exactly. Yeah. I felt like this team was awkward. They lost a lot of games close, and they also blew a lot. They were not consistent throughout. They would lose three, then they'd win two, then they'd win two again, then they'd lose two. It was just weird, streaky. They were a weird team this year, barely a game above 500. They were down, they were below 500 for a little bit of the season. I think their confidence was very low this year due to injuries, lack of chemistry. Some guys were stepping up, other guys weren't really. I think Brad Stevens, he kind of had a failed approach this year. Um, I think that he really needed to emphasize like playing a little bit better, really trying to get his younger guys to step up. I don't know if he really had the like empowerment that he did in previous years. I think this year it was definitely a little bit lower. He was dealing with a lot though, so I do give him that. I think he's a great coach and all, but I think this year the Celtics did struggle a lot. I think front office they could have made some trades, better trades at the deadline. I think Evan Fournier was a great trade, but I think that maybe getting a few better players for next year might also be good. I think maybe trading away some younger players like Carson Edwards might not be a bad idea. Maybe giving away some draft picks for some better players right now. Because last year I felt 2020 was their year to go to the finals. The Heat, I don't think they should have made it. I think that's also hurting them. It's like how they have the hangover year where the team that makes the championship and loses, screws off the next year. Well, the Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Championship and fell off the next year. And I think that has to do somewhat with coaching, but also with how the players performed this year.
All right, so this is the last thing we're gonna finish off with. So I'm trying to not speak as loud. It's gonna be like some ASMR kind of gonna be some like ASMR kind of thing because I'm not trying to wake up my parents and all that. So
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem.
the last thing we're gonna talk about is NFL. They recently increased their games to 17, and I was curious about your thoughts on that.
I think that it's good and bad. I think that increasing it gets more views for like the league and also more revenue, but it also is
Yeah,
something that I think is kind of risky. I think that people will get injured a lot more, and I think that in the long run it could be something that could backfire. I think it's good though for the fans. I think that we're going to be able to see an extra game against an opponent that we wouldn't normally play on a good year. So I think that that is good. But I think that in terms of other things, I don't think it's as good. And I think that it could risk players getting injured. Also, I think it's going to increase the season by a week. So that is going to kind of rush a lot of things as well. So I think, therefore, it could be not beneficial.
yeah, yeah. Excuse me with the audience. I'm on some like ASMR kind of thing, but yeah, I'd have to agree with that because there's a reason why the NFL season is 16 games. Why it's already short as it is. It's not like the NBA where you play every other day because football like takes a huge toll on you with your body, and
Hmm.
that's why a lot of guys don't last long in the league. That's why like the average career span's like 3.5 years or something like that, I believe.
Hmm.
Because like football's no joke.
That's true. That's true. So much toll on
And
the body.
then like there's a reason why kids are getting discouraged to play football when you got things like CTA and like the after effects that when your career is done has like it's affected guys in tragic ways. Some at some points like Junior Seau, for example.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it is very unfortunate. And I think that that's one thing that the league has to improve on is safety for players. I think that they have to look at that. They have to really emphasize on really teaching players how to perform in the most safest way so that everyone can benefit from it because a safer game is a better game for all.
Yeah, and like mental health as well because like there was the recent death of the former receiver Vincent Jackson.
Hmm.
I, I'm not sure what was it, a suicide. I'm not sure what it was.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that the league definitely needs to be improved on. That's something that like, the NBA is great at doing. Like you got guys like Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan talking about like their mental health struggles.
Hmm. Yeah, they definitely, the NBA has been the leader in so many things. And I think that with mental health, especially with players, like how they can be leaders in that. I think that that has definitely been something that the NBA has been a leader in and emphasizing on, creating dialogue and also having players open up about their experiences. I think that has been a good thing. And I think the NFL has been doing stuff like that, but they could be doing a lot more too.
Yeah, and like back to like with the my opinion on the schedule. Another thing is that the stats. I feel like the stats won't like if guys break certain records, it won't be like as meaningful now because like you got that extra game to get it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like it'll be. I think it'll be so much easier to get like 5,000 yards. It's gonna be just like an ordinary accomplishment. It's not gonna be like anything real special if you're to like get 5,000 yards.
Definitely, definitely. I think with more games, there's more opportunities. Like the league used to have the 14 game schedule, then they upped it to 16 games, I think in the 90s or so. And then they're going to do the 17 game. Oh, they're going to be players, they're going to be quarterbacks, better pass yards now, running backs, more yards. It's going to be good in some ways, but it's also going to make it so that it's more easier to, accomplish more goals, which could undermine legacies.
Yeah, and that it's like the stats are gonna be like so inflated. Don't be surprised if like guys are getting 6,000 yards.
Mm, yeah, that would be crazy. Crazy.
And don't be like surprised if like the record books, like NFL record books, is just like getting like completely transformed because of like this extra game, and
Mm,
not just like regular season records, but just like career records, like career touchdowns, stuff like that, because you you have that extra game. So let's say you have a career like as long as Tom Brady, you play and you play every game. That's an extra that's extra 21 games. So you have like a practically a season and a half, extra season and a half that you wouldn't have had last year with the regular 16 game schedule.
hmm Yeah, that is something to look at and just like to take into consideration that this is going to give players more opportunities to, perform, not just for their team, but for their own personal stats. And I think that's when this becomes kind of detrimental to the NFL.
So do you think that it's gonna last? Because I have a feeling that it's gonna be one of those things where like the injuries are gonna be going up, and then they're gonna say that we should just change it back to how it was. What do you think is the future of this like format?
I think scheduling wise, it is very complex because even though that each team plays their division, three, 3-3, so they play three home, three away, and then they play that respective division in their AFC or NFC. They play that as well. I think scheduling that extra opponent is very critical, because you're going to play a team in a different division where you normally don't play, and it's going to be hard to schedule those games when that's going to be. That's going to be hard to do. Also, I think 17 games is a weird number as well. Odd number could be a little strange, although it might help teams be 9-8 instead of 8-8. Help teams get over 500. I think it's going to be detrimental to players with their health being safe as well. So I think it's going to get too complex, and I think that a lot of GMs are not going to like it after a while and say, you know what, let's just go back to the old ways. I like the old ways better. Keep it the normal 17-week schedule. Start it, first, second week in September, end it right before the start of the new year, so January, and into play and February is playoffs, and boom, let's go. I know it's going to be harsh on venues where they can host another game and get people to bring in more revenue, but on the player health, safety side, I think that it's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more benefits.
Yeah, that is, that's like I think that's a big like motivator as to like why they're doing this, because of the money. And I think I don't think it's coincidence, like whatever like your politics are, but let's just say what it is, like a big, not, I wouldn't say that's like like the biggest or not like the biggest, but like the main reason that the ratings are down. But the reason is because like the politics, regardless of how you feel politically, the politics are playing a factor into why the ratings are going down. And then
Mm-hmm.
then if the rate is, it's like, it's simple mathematics. If the lesser the numbers, that means the lesser money.
Yep.
So they're using this like as an opportunity to make up. In my opinion, this is why they're doing it, to make up for the missed out money they've had due to ratings being lower.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, they're trying to do this. It's a big risk that they take, and I don't really think it's going to be beneficial. I think it's something that is a risk that I don't know if it's really going to help them in the long run. Although that the major networks in the U.S. that cover the games, they do pay the NFL, and it does help the NFL financially. I think that it is something that um, is going to be a big risk and something that could hurt the NFL in return. It could be a reason that they return in the future to 16 games.
So, how many years you think that this 17 game schedule is gonna last them? About
Mm, one, maybe 3 years tops. I think they're going to change it sooner than later. Once a star player gets injured, once the playoffs result in a lack of all-star power and a lack of ratings and also business as well. The NFL is a business. So I think that the front office in the NFL front officers, when they start looking at the ratings, seeing how it doesn't really change, and they also get the opinions of the players and the coaches, I think they're going to say, you know what, this is not working. We're going back to 16 games.
yeah, this is like a small thing, but like because of this implementation of the extra game, typically I don't know I don't pay attention to hockey. Like how many games is hockey?
80, 70 something, 80, somewhere around the NFL kind of.
Yeah, but it's like an even number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a little thing, but now when with this information, it's you're on an odd number, and typically seasons, regardless of what it is, NBA, MLB, regardless of what the length is, it's always on like an even number
Yep.
as opposed to an odd number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
I
is.
don't.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure like what. I feel there has to be a reason for why like every major sport is on an even number as opposed to an odd number, but whatever the reason is, I'm pretty sure there has to be a reason for why it's like that. But
Mm.
now with the odd number games, it might it might like defeat the purpose on why sports seasons has even numbered games.
I'd agree. Yeah, it also, yeah, it's just odd, and it's just odd. It's out of place.
Yeah, it's the NBA or not the NBA. The NFL is not like the is not the only league since we're talking about the NFL bringing in new games and all that. Um, the NBA's done that with the play-in tournament. So what were your what are your thoughts on the play-in tournament?
I thought it was a good idea. At first, I was a little skeptic about it and saying that, well, you know what, the 7 and the 8 seed should make it. But I think that this year, since it was such a kind of a hard year for a lot of teams, some teams just really did not luck out with players going into the COVID recall, and some teams getting hot at the right time. I think that the play in might be better. I think that it does give the 7 and the 8 teams still a benefit, although the Warriors failed it. I think that looking ahead in the future, I think that it is they should probably keep it. I think it really gets play like teams in the 7 and the 8. It does benefit them in a way. I think that it benefited the Celtics and the Lakers a little bit, but I think the Grizzlies really were the biggest benefiters to it because they came out swinging. They were
Yeah,
hot. They won two in a row, and they just came out and they just won yesterday. I think that it's good. It gets people hyped. It also boosts revenue from from watching, from the views, and I think that it does help the NBA, and I think it's something that they should keep.
yeah, I agree with that, and I said something about that with Evans on the podcast I did with them, and
Mhm.
with the way that if the Grizzlies, especially if they upset the Jazz in the
Mm,
first round, I think that's gonna be keep. They're gonna keep that. They're that's gonna be that's gonna be like a justification for them to keep the playing game because look at what happened. They'll be the NBA will be thinking to themselves like, look what happened with the Grizzlies. They if we did had it the regular way, they wouldn't have been in the playoffs. But since there was this playoff playing tournament, they were able to actually make some noise as an 8 seed.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that is. I think that some teams don't like it because, like the top teams, they might say, well, you know what? They have a head start. They won three in a row or two in a row. So now they're the hottest team. And now they're coming in with, even though no days rest, they come in and they play day in and day out while we had a 5 day break. So what is this? And I think with the Jazz, it showed yesterday.
Yeah, with the playing game, I feel it's very selective because look, we all know LeBron would be complaining about it if the Lakers weren't sliding down in the standings, he wouldn't be saying anything about it. But since it's affecting him personally, now he has a problem with it.
I see that. I see that. Yeah, LeBron, excuse after excuse.
Oh my goodness! You see that?
Oh,
You
the
see that
flop.
that flop he did last
Ugh.
last night?
He looked like Neymar. That's something Neymar would do. This is not a soccer game. Come on, LeBron.
Like he barely got touched at all. He was like, ah.
That's what I said. I was like, what is going on with this? What is going on? Come on, LeBron. Don't do that, please. This is not soccer. That's what I
oh
was like.
you
I was like, what is that?
oh you see like when it was the Warriors and Lakers playing game and like and he was injured supposedly people were making memes of him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. That people will make memes about anything, but with LeBron, that was so comical.
That's what happened. That's why he's on Space Jam too.
Jeez. Yeah, he's a unique player though in the league. He's someone that once he retires, it's gonna be
Yeah, it's
like
gonna be weird.
it's gonna be so weird without LeBron. But you still, even though he's been on so many teams and people hate him and love him, I think that he needs to be appreciated for the art of the game that he has come with.
Yeah, like that. I think that's like an issue the NBA has is I feel they're too relying on LeBron because I feel they don't really have a guy that is even near
Mm-hmm.
like the legacy that he has or the guy that can like he could pass the torch to when he retires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now they're in that crisis that is definitely something that they have to look into because I think that Kobe passed it off to LeBron, MJ passed it off to Kobe, Kobe to LeBron. Who does LeBron pass it to? Trey Young, Jason Tatum. Who's the next young guy? Luka Doncic. I mean, this is when I think legacies are starting to be created, icons are starting to be created in the league, but it's just going to be who is going to be that living legend who goes in and day out and competes. I think that we do have a lot of great talent who is young in the NBA, but I don't see anyone. They might say it's Zion. I don't know. A little too young right now to say it's Zion, but could it be like a Jason Tatum? Could it be Booker, Devin Booker? I don't know. John Morant, maybe. I don't know. So much talent in the league, but it's someone really needs to stand out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel that this is like the most talented the NBA has been. This is the most talented because you got like guys from all over the world now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the game's more international, but I feel that even with that, there's not really a guy that's like near the caliber, like recognition of like LeBron. Like, for example, I I have friends in high school that I have a friend that he doesn't really watch basketball, but he knows Michael Jordan, he knows Stephen Curry, he knows Kobe, and I don't think when like Curry or LeBron retires, there's gonna be like those guys that even people that don't even watch basketball would know.
Mm-hmm. I think as the game gets more, as it gets more popular and it gets more interest, I think maybe Joel Embiid could be someone who everyone might know. I'm thinking maybe Luka Doncic, Jimmy Butler, um, maybe John Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Djokovic could be as well. Um, a Jokic, like players like that. I think definitely have that international connection, or they're just well known to the point where they could um, be a fan favorite, even though they're not on your team.
Yeah. So, what about what do you think about Giannis? About LeBron? About him potentially being the guy that LeBron passes the torch to?
You know what? I think it's fitting. Um, I think Giannis is a player that when you look at him, you say, "All right, he has a lot. He's a lot to be talked about for." I think that he is a leader for the Bucks. I think that he is the icon for the Bucks right now. Um, I do see kind of an inner LeBron in him. I think that since he has gotten bigger and stronger over the years, and how he has really proven himself with MVP and All Star after All Star appearance, I think he could be. I think it's more of, can he lead the team? Can he lead the Bucks to a championship, or can he lead them even to an Eastern Conference final? If he can prove that, then I think that we could start the transition from LeBron to Giannis. But I think it's not going to be just one person. I think it's going to be multiple people, because I think that the league has gotten a lot more competitive. You see it with the West right now, how competitive that is. I don't think it's just one player. I think Giannis will be one of them, but I think there's going to be several, which I think is going to be better for the league.
Yeah, but yeah, true. And but I feel like the issue is like what how like they market it,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel it's just like LeBron, and like people don't really. Nick Wright, you heard of him?
What team does he play?
Uh, he's an analyst.
I think I'm kind of familiar with him.
So he's talking about like he's basically trashing Nikola Jokic because he's not part of like this. He's not part of like is the market he's like the team he's in, like the market or whatever. Oh, that's not gonna bring it ratings, but if you keep talk, but you keep talking about like those guys, uh, eventually you're gonna create hype around them. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, they don't want to talk about it because of the market or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's marketability. It's also how well known they are, how recognized they are, how they play. And I think that, once you start talking about them in the media, you're giving them attention. And I think with Jokic, he's getting the attention that he needs. They're kind of blowing him up. And I think even though they're criticizing him, you're still getting people to say, "Oh, Nikola Jokic, he could be a potential leader in the league," you know? And I think with that, the media has such a big role in the NBA.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I would say like some sports channels. It's kind of like CNN. They have like a lack of diversity. What the like the subjects they'll be talking about. on Skip and Shannon show, The Undisputed.
Mhm.
You, you know how many times they'll be talking about LeBron and Ovi?
Probably every day.
Yeah, most likely.
Ugh. It just shows though how, like, I remember last year during the pandemic when nothing was on. All they talked about was the last dance and also hypothetical situations for the NBA. And I think with sports talk in general, specifically with, Fox Sports 1, ESPN shows, all those shows, they kind of lose, they just talk about the same things, and it really boosts the stardom of the people they're talking about. Oh, LeBron today, AD tomorrow. We're going to talk about Kawhi. We're going to talk about Paul George. We're going to talk about Luka Doncic, Trey Young, and oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit about RJ Barrett. And then they'll talk about tomorrow Jimmy Butler, and then some other player the next day. And those players really get the stardom, while other players just don't get that, and they don't benefit from it. And that just shows you how much the media manipulates the fans who watch it and how they think.
Yeah, so we had a really good discussion, I think.
I know,
How,
right? This has
how
been a
long?
long one. This has
Yeah,
been, I believe, 2 hours and like 30 minutes. Like, wow, this is going to be a long podcast. It
yeah, it's great though. But
was good. I know. I loved it.
yeah, so um, what do you gotta say to anybody that's watching or slash listening to this? What what um what is appealing about your channels? What about your channels you think the people that are tuning into this podcast might be want to check out your stuff?
I think they want to check out, well, my personal Aceman analysis. That's for music. So I think that if you want to get like a Blackie Speaks kind of genius kind of look, then I would definitely highly encourage you to go check out that show, my show, Aceman Analysis. If you really love like song analysis and also just the music industry in general, definitely go check it out. I do a lot of Blackie Speaks kind of stuff, analysis, maybe a little bit reactions. I don't know. But that's what, if you love doing that and you love listening to music, then come on and join my discussion on my show. And then Peace and Chaos program, that's a lot more about politics and societal issues. If you're passionate about that, please, please, please go check it out. It's Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow us on Twitter, Peace and Chaos P1, Peace and Chaos P1. You can go check it out. We talk about a lot of different things, but if you like that, go for it. And I just want to say thank you again to the Whatever Kid. Such a great discussion and podcast. I definitely love your channel. Love watching every video, all the interviews you've already done with Derek and also Yvins. Uh, Definitely want to go give you a round of applause for having me on today as well. So golf clap, but thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Thank you.
we appreciate you being on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so to finish it off, we're gonna at the count of three say whatever
All
at
right.
the same time. All
All right.
right,
One,
one,
two,
two,
three.
three,
Whatever.
whatever.